Wonder Woman first appeared in All-Star Comics number 8 in December 1941, and she scored her first solo cover on the front of Sensation Comics number 1 in January 1942. The Wonder Woman title has been published by DC Comics almost continuously, except for a brief hiatus in 1986. Wonder Woman's depiction as a heroine fighting for justice, love, peace, and sexual equality has led to her being widely considered a feminist icon. A warrior princess of the Amazons, based on the Amazons of Greek mythology, Wonder Woman is known in her hidden and hating homeland as Princess Diana of Themyscira, but in the mortal world she's known by her civilian name, Diana Prince. She is gifted with a wide range of superhuman powers and superior combat and battle skills. She possesses an arsenal of weapons, including the Lasso of Truth, a pair of indestructible bracelets, a tiara which serves as a projectile, and in some stories, an invisible airplane. Created during World War II, the character was initially depicted fighting the Axis military forces, as well as an assortment of supervillains. Wonder Woman gained a formidable cast of enemies bent on eliminating the Amazon, including classic villains such as Cheetah, Ares, and Circe, and newer ones like Genocide and the Circle, as well as many gods and monsters from Greek mythology. Wonder Woman has also regularly appeared in comic books featuring the superhero teams the Justice Society starting in 1941 and the Justice League starting in 1960. Born James Howlett and commonly known as Logan, Wolverine is a mutant who possesses animal keen senses, enhanced physical capabilities, and a healing factor that allows him to recover from virtually any wound, disease, or toxin at an accelerated rate. The healing factor also slows down his aging process, enabling him to live beyond a normal human lifespan. His powerful healing factor enabled him to survive having the near indestructible metal alloy adamantium bonded to his skeleton. He is most often depicted as a member of the X-Men, Alpha Flight, or the Avengers. Wolverine first appeared in the last panel of The Incredible Hulk number 180, and his first full appearance in November 1974's The Incredible Hulk number 181. Wolverine's signature catchphrase, "I'm the best there is at what I do, but what I do isn't very nice," debuted during his eponymous four-part limited series from September to December 1982. Wolverine was typical of the many tough, anti-authority anti-heroes that emerged in American pop culture after the Vietnam War. Wolverine's willingness to use deadly force and his brooding nature became standard characteristics for comic book anti-heroes by the end of the 1980s. As a result, the character became a fan favorite of the increasingly popular X-Men franchise. Peter Parker, the teenager behind Spider-Man's mask, is a typical high school student who is self-obsessed with rejection, inadequacy, and loneliness. And he has perhaps the most unique and most consistently well-depicted origin story in all of comics. Raised by his Uncle Ben and Aunt May, Peter Parker grows up the best friend of trust fund brat Harry Osborn, and despite his wealthy best friend, Peter is consistently picked on by the prototypical jock/bully, Flash Thompson. One afternoon on a field trip at Oscorp, which is owned by Harry's billionaire dad Norman, a radioactive spider bites Peter. The bite gives Peter the agility and proportionate strength of a spider. Along with super strength, he gains the ability to adhere to walls and ceilings. Through his knack for science, Peter develops a gadget that lets him fire homemade adhesive webbing through small wrist-mounted web shooters. Initially seeking to capitalize on his new abilities, he dons a costume and, as Spider-Man, becomes a novelty television star. Peter ignores the higher calling he is seemingly given and keeps toying with his spider powers. The inciting incident in the origin story is when he flippantly ignores the chance to stop a fleeing thief who later robs and murders the man who was like a father to him. It is only with tears in his eyes watching Uncle Ben bleed out on the sidewalk that Peter realized what being Spider-Man was really supposed to mean. It is only when Peter tracks down and subdues Uncle Ben's killer that he learns what he meant by, with great power there must also come great responsibility. It is only at this moment that Peter finally realized that his calling to be a hero 24/7, 365, no matter how much venom John Jonah Jameson spat at Spider-Man in the Daily Bugle headlines each day. A family outing to the movies ended tragically for a young Bruce Wayne. Walking homeward, Bruce and his billionaire parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, ventured into Gotham's notorious crime alley and were accosted by a mugger. Not content merely to rob the wealthy family, the hoodlum, later revealed to be Joe Chill, murdered Bruce's parents in cold blood in front of his eyes before fleeing into the darkness. As he knelt beside his parents' bodies, Bruce swore to avenge them. After the police arrived, Dr. Leslie Tompkins comforted Bruce. Dr. Tompkins and the Waynes' faithful butler, Alfred Pennyworth, helped arrange matters so that Gotham's social services would not take Bruce into their care. In this way, both Dr. Tompkins and Alfred enabled Bruce to realize his dream of becoming a crusader against crime. At age 14, Bruce embarked on a journey that took him to every continent as he sought to learn the skills he would need to keep his vow. He studied criminology, forensics, criminal psychology, and learned from manhunters and martial artists, mastering every fighting style. In time, Bruce forged himself into a living weapon to wage war on crime and injustice. On his return to Gotham, Bruce stalked street thugs as a plainclothes vigilante. Beaten by the very people he intended to protect, he barely survived his first night out. As he sat bleeding in his study at Wayne Manor, Bruce knew that he had this first strike fear into the hearts of his foes. Just then a bat crashed through the study window, giving him all the inspiration he needed, establishing a secret headquarters in the caves beneath his mansion. Bruce became Batman, a dark knight to protect Gotham and its citizens from vice and villainy. Alfred Pennyworth remained his confidant, tending to injuries and offering sage advice, whether Bruce needed it or not. Batman became an urban legend, a cautionary tale that sent shivers through the city's underworld. This caped crusader found a friend in Captain James Gordon, a Gotham cop who didn't approve of Batman's methods, but appreciated the results of his nightly crime fighting. Batman's rogues gallery grew to include a host of bizarre criminals, such as the Joker, Catwoman, Two-Face, and the Penguin. Superman's public debut has differed throughout decades of publication. Originally, he first donned the costume and began fighting crime as an adult. Later, he was shown to have begun his heroic career as Superboy, changing his name to Superman after he grew up. The character's history as Superboy was retconned in the Man of Steel retelling of the origin. In the New 52, DC Comics' current continuity, Clark used his powers to aid others while still a youth, operating as a rarely glimpsed American myth, the mysterious Superboy. In all of the origin stories, however, Kal-El is born to the Kryptonian scientists Jor-El and Lara, who jettison their newborn son off of Krypton before the dying planet can implode. The spaceship carrying Kal-El eventually crashes into Earth, where Jonathan and Martha Kent discover it and Kal-El. The couple adopt the baby, who they rename Clark Kent, and they adopt him as their own and raise him on their farm in Smallville. Clark eventually discovers he has superpowers, and the Kents teach him to use them responsibly to help others and fight crime. Clark keeps his powers secret in order to protect his family and friends who might be endangered by his enemies. In order to use his powers to help humanity, Clark creates the alter ego of Superman. A number of elements are added to each identity to keep them distinct enough to prevent the casual observer from matching them. Superman wears a characteristic red and blue costume with the letter S emblem on his chest and a cape. Clark Kent takes to wearing glasses, styling his hair differently, changing his body language, significantly altering his voice, and wearing looser fitting clothing and suits to hide his physique. Clark Kent moves to Metropolis and takes a job as a reporter at the Daily Planet, where he meets his friends and co-workers, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and editor-in-chief Perry White. Superman becomes the subject of frequent headline stories written by Lois, and the two become romantically attracted to each other.